What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about something very exciting that just got announced from Sony Alpha, and that is the new Sony A9 Mark III. It is one of the most groundbreaking cameras I've ever heard about or learned about, and I want to tell you guys why it's going to be great for concert photography and all you music lovers out there. So this past weekend, Sony flew me out to New York City. Specifically, I thought I was going for a thing called the Sony Creative Space, which is essentially a get-together of like-minded individuals and creatives that all use Sony Alpha gear, and you kind of get to shoot these sets, interact with each other, have some coffee, just interact. It's like a networking event for creatives, and it's really incredible. They do it every year, so I thought I was going out there for just that. But to my surprise, Sony actually released two new products. They released the Sony 300mm 2.8 lens, which is crazy, and then on top of that, they released a brand new camera, which is going to be groundbreaking for all of you concert photographers, music lovers out there, sports photographers, any of you fast motion event photographers. This new camera is crazy. It is the Sony A9 Mark III, and it is the first camera to introduce a global shutter. So as you guys probably know, when you're taking photos, there's a rolling shutter, which means it starts from the top and it goes to the bottom really quickly, and within milliseconds that happens, and it can capture a frame of an image. But due to that, you get things like banding, you get some distortion, you get some drag, especially if you're shooting things like, I don't know, you see it in golfing, you see it in concerts with the lights banding through the photos. So essentially the light is moving too fast for the shutter and the frequency of the light is off. It's a whole mathematical equation. But now, thanks to this new camera and new sensor, all of that is a thing of the past. That is no longer a thing. And I want to talk to you about why it's so important for live music photographers and concert photographers to have this body or this new global shutter system. Yeah, so let's get into it. So what is special about the A9 Mark III? Well, I don't usually do this, but I think I'm just going to dive through into the actual specs and details of the camera because it's absolutely spectacular, and there's a lot that I will not remember off the top of my head. So first things first, let's talk about the absolutely insane 120 frames per second photos it's able to take, and no blackout, meaning when you're taking those 120 frames per second in raw photos, it is not blacking out on the screen and you are able to see everything you are doing. That's unprecedented. That just doesn't exist in other cameras nowadays. 120 frames per second is, to wrap your head around that, you guys, you could take those photos and turn it into a slow motion video at like 8K plus resolution, which is absurd. I don't know what we're going to need that for. It also gives you insane motion capture. So you are able to take these frames and turn them into like animated GIFs. You can turn them into like a collage of all the images being wrapped around each other. There's a lot of different things you can do with 120 frames per second. And it just opens a whole world of possibilities for concert photographers and event photographers and people capturing fast motion to be able to really dive in and get very creative with their images, with their concepts, and how they're able to deliver those final products. So that's really exciting in my opinion for concert photography specifically. Along with the 120 frames per second, it also has 120 continuous autofocus points, which is crazy. 120 points on your sensor that you're able to pick from to focus is crazy. I don't even know. I only use like center focus most of the time, but with the continuous autofocus system that the A9 Mark III has, it's going to make capturing focus impossible to miss. It has AI tracking for humans, for birds, for animals, for sports, for athletes. AI tracking for everything. There's literal AI built into this camera to use these autofocus points to the peak of their ability. The most important thing, in my opinion, on why this camera is going to be so good for concert photography specifically is because there's no banding anymore. Banding is those weird lines that you get when you're taking photos. Specifically, concert photographers struggle a lot with this because the refresh rate on the lights that are putting on the show kind of contradict what the camera is supposed to be able to capture. So because of this, you get a lot of banding, you get issues with your photos. Sometimes the light bleeds onto the sensor in weird ways. And that's always been a big issue with, especially with rolling shutter. Having to those lights are moving so fast that your camera is also, the shutter's moving so fast. It's like, it just becomes problematic, and it makes it so capturing images like that sometimes can be a pain in the. That is kind of a thing in the past now. There will be exceptions. Now with this global shutter, you are able to flash sync up to 1/80,000th of a second. 80,000th, not 8,000th, 80,000th of a second, meaning that the global shutter is able to grab whatever light is right in front of the sensor and bring it straight into the camera instantly. No more shutter, no more worrying about what shutter speeds you have to be at to sync your photos to make sure that there's no weird flash layers and things like that within your sensor. And that's going to transfer over to your concert photography as well, meaning a lot of these lights you're going to be able to just shoot at whatever shutter speed you want and not have to worry about this banding or flash syncing. There will be exceptions. There will probably be refresh rates of lights that are just weird and flickery, so you might see a little bit of that, but this camera also has anti-flicker built into it, which is crazy. So like there's a lot you're going to be able to do. Me personally, for the past 10 years, I've had to work around this with my concert photography, and I've had to shoot at like 1/500th of a second, 1/250th of a second, to really be sure that I'm capturing the full length of the light and that it's not like getting cut off by that rolling shutter. And it's honestly really kind of stopped me from being able to create a lot of images that I wanted to create, just because that banding in photos doesn't look good. It's very hard to fix in post, and it's honestly just kind of a pain to have to deal with. So not having to worry about that in live music photography it's absurd. It's really crazy to think about. It changes the whole way that you're able to capture images, capture artists, work with artists on stage. It's definitely going to be game changing for that situation. Also, with it being a global shutter, you're not going to get any drag like you see sometimes on like a massive golf swing. You'll see the golf club kind of drag a little bit, or like when a gymnast is moving crazy fast, you see a little bit of blur even at the faster shutter speeds, and that's because it's grabbing from the top down. Now that's not going to be a thing. It is going to just grab the photos. Pretty absurd to be able to capture things at that split second of a moment. It already was crazy, and now it's just like at another level. Sony did it again. The Sony A9 III also comes with dual card slots, which is just kind of becoming normal on all of these flagship cameras that Sony has. USB-C connectors, it has touch operating display, anti-dust system, dedicated still, movie, S and Q dial for flexible hybrid operation, clear voice memo recording, improved group display, built-in Wi-Fi, shading curtain closed on power off, meaning your sensor's not going to get dirty when you want to switch lenses. You can just turn off your camera, switch the lens, and it's not going to get a dusty mirrorless sensor. The screen is actually 240 refresh rate, which is the speed of your eye. So that's what your eye and your brain kind of see is the same thing. So there's dynamic stabilization. You can shoot 4K video in 10-bit 422 in S-Log, so you have a huge dynamic range of being able to color correct and make an image what you want it to be. And I just have to say that this is kind of groundbreaking for documentation. If you're a documentary photographer, a sports photographer, a live photographer, really anything that you need just an all-in-one body. The Sony A1 can do it, but in my opinion, the Sony A9 Mark III has stepped it up to another level, and I think you guys, if you are looking for a new camera body to stick with you for a long time and a long time to come, definitely look into the Sony A9 Mark III. Yeah, incredible to get to see this release firsthand, and I'm really glad I got to be there at Sony Creative Space. So cool. So cool. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really appreciate Sony. Huge shout out to Sony Alpha bringing me out all the time, taking care of me. Even while I've been injured and in hospitals and in and out, you guys have made sure to take care of me, and I appreciate it more than you guys can ever imagine. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you guys learned a thing or two. I appreciate you for checking it out, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.